So in this video, we'll look at section 1.3 in the textbook called Properties of Matter. Two main properties of matter are physical properties and chemical properties. Make sure you've got a notebook and a pencil out and can take these notes down, illustrate them as section 1.3 in the textbook, and then physical and chemical, and leave some space for some examples of each of these. So physical properties can be observed without changing the identity and composition of the substance, whereas chemical properties describe the way something may change or react to form something else. Examples of physical property would be things like color, odor, density, melting point, boiling point, or hardness. Chemical properties describe how it would change when it's reacted with something else, how it would be flammable in air or in the presence of oxygen, how it would react with acid, or would sunlight cause it to undergo a chemical reaction. Those are chemical changes versus physical changes. Now, we also classify properties of matter as being either intensive or extensive. Intensive simply means that it is independent of the amount of matter that it has. Since we, in slang words, called matter stuff, we can say that it is independent of the amount of stuff. Since intensive and independent both start with the letter I, it's easy to remember. Examples of intensive properties would be density, color, melting point, boiling point. Things that it doesn't matter how much you have, those properties would always be the same. Extensive properties include things like mass, volume, amount of energy produced. Those depend on how much stuff you have. If you have 1 gallon of gasoline and you react it, you will go a certain distance in your car. If you have 10 gallons of gasoline, you will get more energy, and so that would be an extensive property of matter. Now, properties lead us into how substances change, and so the other way, or the other property piece that we need to understand and know, are how substances can change physically or they can change chemically. And so we have to look at physical and chemical changes. Physical changes never change the actual atom makeup of the substance, whereas chemical changes rearrange the atoms and make a new substance. So physical changes only have changes in appearance or in the state of matter, like something melting and going from a solid to a liquid, or something sublimating and going from a solid to a gas. Those would be physical changes. It's still water going from solid to a liquid. It would still be carbon dioxide that go from a solid to a gas. It would be like dry ice, for example. A chemical change is also known as a chemical reaction, and this rearranges the atoms inside of a substance. For example, if you take hydrogen and react it with oxygen in the air, you would get a new substance. You would get H2O. And notice how the hydrogen used to be alone by itself as an atom is now combined with another atom, and now we have a new substance or a new compound, and that's known as a chemical change. Lastly, in this section, the text talks about the separating of various mixtures. One technique used to separate mixtures is called distillation. Distillation is a process that depends on the different abilities of substances to form gases. For example, this setup in a picture of your textbook is a distillation apparatus. And so we have a substance in here, a solution actually, of salt and water. And of course, water will change to a gas at a much lower temperature than salt will. And so you can change the water to gas by heating it up. And then up here at the top, it would cool down, and then the liquid water would drip down through this tube that has cold water running through the outside. And then you would get pure water right down here at the bottom. And then the salt would remain in the water right here because, of course, salt itself doesn't boil or change to the gaseous phase until hundreds and hundreds of degrees Celsius. So that's one method of separating a mixture. Another one is called filtration. And you've probably seen a filter funnel or a filter paper where you pour something through and you'll get a liquid part and then you'll keep the solid inside the filter paper. Those are several different ways that you can separate solids and liquids or mixtures from one another. In our next video, we'll take a look at measuring amounts.